There are people who spend their entire lives carrying an invisible weight on their shoulders. Not the weight of hard labor, not the weight of poverty, but the exhausting burden of trying to satisfy everyone around them. They wake up worried about what others think. They speak carefully so nobody gets offended. They hide parts of themselves just to avoid criticism. And slowly, without even realizing it, they stop living for their own hearts and begin living for the opinions of the world. The strange thing about life is this. No matter what you do, someone will always have something to say. If you succeed, people call you lucky or arrogant. If you fail, they say they expected it. If you speak openly, you are considered loud and attention-seeking. If you stay quiet, they accuse you of being cold or prideful. Work too little and you are lazy. Work too much and suddenly you are greedy. It feels as though there is no way to escape judgment, and because of that, so many people live in fear. Fear of being criticized, fear of disappointing others, fear of not being accepted. But the more we chase approval, the more exhausted we become. It is like running after the wind. No matter how fast you go, you never truly catch it. Eventually, your soul becomes tired. Your mind becomes restless. And your happiness depends entirely on whether other people approve of your existence. Yet real peace only begins the moment we stop handing our lives over to strangers. Think about your own life for a second. How many times have random comments from other people stayed in your mind for days? Maybe someone mocked your appearance once, and years later you still remember it. Maybe somebody doubted your abilities, and ever since then, you've been afraid to try again. Sometimes one careless sentence from another person becomes a prison inside our minds. There are people who don't wear what they truly like because they fear being laughed at. There are people who choose careers based on family pressure instead of passion. Some stay trapped in unhappy relationships simply because they fear society's judgment. Little by little, their lives stop belonging to them. Their decisions become controlled by outside voices, and that is one of the saddest ways to live. Life itself is already short and fragile. One breath out without another breath in, and everything ends. Yet many people spend that precious life worrying about gossip that will disappear in a few days anyway. They sacrifice their peace for opinions that constantly change. It's like holding a glass of water while dying of thirst, but throwing it away simply because somebody else says, "The water doesn't taste good." In the end, who suffers? Only you. There is an old saying that carries profound wisdom. We cannot close the mouths of others, but we can choose whether or not to listen. People will always talk. That is their nature. But not every voice deserves space inside your heart. Wisdom is not found in controlling public opinion. Wisdom is learning which voices deserve your attention and which ones should pass by like wind through the trees. The Buddha once explained that in this world, there are 4 kinds of people. Those who deserve criticism and are criticized. Those who deserve praise and are praised. Those who deserve praise but are criticized. And those who deserve criticism but are praised. This teaching reveals something important. Public opinion is never the absolute truth. The crowd is often inconsistent, emotional, and temporary. What truly matters is whether your actions are honest and your conscience is clear. A person who lives sincerely may still be misunderstood. A dishonest person may still receive applause. So if you build your happiness entirely on the opinions of others, your peace will always remain unstable. There is a simple story that illustrates this perfectly. Once, there was a poor farmer who spent months saving enough money to buy himself a new shirt. It was nothing luxurious, but to him it was special. The moment he wore it, he felt proud and happy. One morning, he put on the shirt and walked into the market with a smile on his face. The first person he met looked at him and said, "The shirt is nice, but the color looks too plain." The farmer suddenly felt embarrassed. That evening, he went home and dyed the shirt a darker color. The next day, another person saw him and said, "That color is too gloomy. You look depressing wearing it." Again, the farmer felt uncomfortable. So he dyed the shirt once more. On the third day, someone laughed and said, "This color is way too bright. It hurts my eyes." The farmer became miserable. No matter what he changed, someone always criticized him. Day after day, he kept altering the shirt, trying desperately to please everyone around him. Eventually, he no longer enjoyed wearing it at all. Seeing his frustration, his wife gently said, "You bought the shirt to keep yourself warm and make yourself happy. Why are you wearing it for the world instead? Their mouths belong to them, but the shirt belongs to you." At that moment, the farmer awakened. From then on, he wore what he liked and stopped allowing random opinions to control his peace. Many of us are exactly like that farmer. We constantly repaint ourselves to match other people's expectations. We change our personalities, hide our emotions, suppress our dreams, and silence our voices just to gain acceptance. But the more we do this, the further we drift away from who we truly are. And eventually, even if the world approves of us, we no longer recognize ourselves. Life is already heavy enough. Why carry unnecessary burdens too? Imagine walking down a long road while strangers continuously place items into your backpack. One person adds criticism, another adds gossip. Someone else throws in expectations, comparisons, and judgment. At first, maybe you can still walk comfortably, but over time, the weight becomes unbearable. This is how many people live every single day. They carry every insult, every misunderstanding, every negative comment, every expectation placed upon them. And then they wonder why they feel exhausted all the time. But here is the truth. Not every burden belongs to you. You have the right to put some things down. You can listen without absorbing. You can hear criticism without allowing it to define your worth. You can let people misunderstand you without constantly trying to explain yourself, because at the end of life, you will not regret failing to please everyone. You will regret abandoning yourself. Many people spend their lives performing for an invisible audience. They become obsessed with looking successful, sounding intelligent, appearing perfect. They fear making mistakes because they think the world is always watching. But when the curtain finally falls, they realize something painful. They spent their entire lives acting, yet never truly lived. Meanwhile, there are quieter people who simply focus on living honestly. They do good without seeking applause. They help others without announcing it. They stay true to themselves even if nobody understands them. And when their journey ends, they leave this world peacefully because they know they lived authentically. Now, think carefully about this question. If tomorrow were your last day alive, would you still care about the opinions of strangers? Would you waste your final hours arguing online? Would you obsess over criticism? Would you still desperately try to prove yourself? Probably not. You would want to spend time with the people you love. You would want to say kind words. You would want to feel peace. And maybe that realization alone is enough to remind us what truly matters. Life is, at its core, a journey of meeting and parting. We enter this world empty-handed, carried by a single breath, and one day we will leave in exactly the same way. Between those two moments, we encounter people, relationships, opportunities, heartbreaks, successes and losses. Some stay for years, some appear only briefly, but none of them remain forever. This is the nature of life that many people struggle to accept. We become attached to moments and people as if they belong to us permanently. We hold tightly to relationships, possessions, titles, and expectations. And when life inevitably changes, we suffer. Not because change is unnatural, but because we resist it. In Buddhism, there is the idea of Nhan Du Yen, karmic conditions and fate. Every person we meet arrives because certain conditions bring us together. Parents, friends, lovers, colleagues, even strangers we encounter for only a moment. All of these connections arise from causes and conditions. But the important thing is this: anything that comes together can also separate. Nothing is guaranteed to stay. Once we truly understand this, something inside us softens. We stop trying to control everything. We stop demanding permanence from a world built entirely upon change. Think about your own life. There were once people you believed would walk beside you forever. Friends you laughed with every day. Relationships that felt unbreakable. Dreams you thought would never fade. Yet, somehow, time changed everything. Some people drifted away quietly. Some left suddenly. Some relationships ended without closure. Some dreams dissolved without warning. At first, these losses feel unbearable. The heart resists reality. We replay old memories, wondering what went wrong. We ask ourselves why people changed. We hold on to the past like someone gripping sand tighter and tighter, only to watch it slip away faster. But eventually life teaches us something profound. Not every connection is meant to last forever. Some people come into our lives to teach us lessons. Some arrive to help us grow. Some appear only to awaken parts of ourselves we never knew existed. And once that purpose is fulfilled, the connection changes. This does not mean the relationship was meaningless. It simply means its season has ended. Many people misunderstand the meaning of letting go. They think letting go means forgetting someone completely, pretending nothing mattered, or becoming emotionally cold. But true letting go is not denial. It is acceptance. It is being able to say, yes, this mattered deeply to me. Yes, I loved. Yes, I cared. But I also understand that life moves forward. Letting go means appreciating the past without becoming trapped inside it. Imagine standing beside a flowing river. The water never clings to a single drop. It continues moving naturally, and because of that, the river remains alive and fresh. But if the water stopped flowing and held on to everything, it would eventually become stagnant. The human heart works the same way. If we cling endlessly to old pain, old resentment, and old memories, our minds become heavy and clouded. We stop living in the present because we are emotionally trapped in what no longer exists. This is why some people remain unhappy for years after a breakup, betrayal, or failure. The event itself may have happened long ago, but internally, they continue reliving it every day. Their body lives in the present, but their mind remains imprisoned in the past. And the longer they hold on, the heavier life becomes. Picture someone carrying a massive sandbag across a long road. At first, they manage to continue walking, but after enough time, their shoulders ache, their legs weaken, and exhaustion takes over. Yet instead of putting the burden down, they keep carrying it because they have grown attached to it. This is exactly how many people treat emotional pain. They carry anger from years ago. They carry guilt. They carry betrayal. They carry regret. They carry words spoken long ago by people who may not even remember them anymore. And slowly, these invisible burdens drain all joy from life. The truth is, most suffering does not come from the event itself. It comes from our refusal to release it. Sometimes we say we want peace, but secretly we continue feeding our pain. We replay old conversations in our heads. We revisit wounds over and over. We hold on to resentment because it has become part of our identity. But peace only arrives when we finally decide, I no longer want to carry this. That decision changes everything. In relationships, this wisdom becomes especially important. Every connection in life operates through Nhan Du Yan. When conditions are present, people naturally come together. When conditions change, separation naturally follows. When love exists, cherish it fully. When companionship exists, appreciate it deeply. But when the connection fades, forcing it to remain often creates even more suffering. There are relationships where both people continue holding on even though the love has already disappeared. They stay together out of fear, obligation, or habit. But internally, both are exhausted. Their attachment becomes a prison. Sometimes letting go is the most compassionate thing we can do, not only for ourselves, but for the other person too. Closed door often hurts at first, but sometimes it leads us toward another door we never would have discovered otherwise. Life constantly removes certain things so new things can enter. An open hand can receive. A clenched fist cannot. Yet so many people spend years clinging to what has already ended. There is another trap that quietly steals peace from countless lives. The endless need to compete. From childhood, many of us are taught to compare ourselves, constantly. Better grades, better appearance, better career, more success, more recognition. Society teaches us that our worth depends on whether we are ahead of others. And so the psychology of winning and losing becomes deeply rooted inside us. We compare salaries. We compare relationships. We compare achievements. We compare lifestyles. Even happiness becomes a competition. But comparison is one of the fastest ways to destroy inner peace. Because whether you win or lose, your mind remains restless. If you succeed, fear immediately appears. What if someone surpasses me? If you fail, frustration appears. Why am I not enough? Either way, peace disappears. Much of human suffering comes from the constant desire to prove ourselves. We want to be admired. We want validation. We want others to acknowledge our value. And because of that, even small disagreements can turn into lifelong conflicts. Sometimes people destroy relationships simply because neither side wants to admit they are wrong. Think about how many arguments begin over something insignificant. A single sentence, a misunderstanding, a wounded ego. Yet people continue fighting because pride refuses to let go. But what exactly are we winning? There is a story about a man named Min who spent most of his life obsessed with competition. From childhood, he always needed to be first. At school, he competed relentlessly with classmates. In business, he became aggressive and uncompromising. Even inside his own family, he constantly argued because he always needed to be right. One evening during dinner, his wife lovingly placed food into his bowl and softly said, "You should eat more. I know you like this dish." Instead of appreciating her kindness, Min snapped, "You always try to control me. I know how to feed myself." The warm atmosphere instantly disappeared. His wife became silent. His children lowered their heads. Moments like this happened often. At work, Min's stubbornness also caused problems. He refused to compromise with partners. He turned every disagreement into a battle. Eventually, his stress became unbearable. His health deteriorated. Even after achieving financial success, he felt constantly angry and exhausted. One day, searching for relief, Min visited a temple. There, a monk told him something simple but life-changing. In every argument, even when you win, you still lose your peace. The greatest victory is conquering your own ego. Those words stayed with him. For the first time, Min realized that his true enemy had never been other people. It was his own attachment to being right. Little by little, he began changing. He learned to stay silent during unnecessary arguments. He became gentler with his wife. He listened more carefully instead of reacting immediately. In business, he stopped treating every disagreement like war. And slowly, his life transformed. His family became warmer. His mind became lighter. His health improved. Eventually, Min understood something many people never realize. Peace is more valuable than victory. The longer we live, the more we begin to understand that life moves like a river. It never stands still. Some days the water is calm and peaceful. Other days the current becomes violent, dragging us through loss, disappointment, and uncertainty. No matter how much we try to hold on to stability, life continues changing before our eyes. One moment we are celebrating success. The next moment we are grieving failure. One day we feel loved and understood. Another day we feel lonely in a crowded room. This constant movement is the nature of existence itself. Yet most suffering comes from the fact that we keep demanding permanence from an impermanent world. We want happiness to last forever. We want relationships to never change. We want youth to remain. We want success without failure. We want certainty in a life that guarantees none. And because reality refuses to obey our expectations, the human heart becomes restless. Think about how easily our emotions are controlled by external events. A compliment can make us feel confident all day. A harsh comment can destroy our mood in seconds. Praise lifts us up. Criticism tears us down. Success inflates the ego, while failure makes us question our worth. Why does this happen? Because many people unknowingly attach their inner peace to fragile outside conditions. But external circumstances are unstable by nature. Public opinion changes constantly. Success comes and goes. Even the people we love cannot stay beside us forever. If our happiness depends entirely on these things, then our peace will always remain vulnerable. This is why true wisdom lies in mastering the art of letting go. The art of letting go does not mean abandoning responsibility or becoming emotionally numb. It does not mean refusing to love people or care about life. Instead, it means learning how to live fully without becoming imprisoned by attachment. You can love deeply without controlling. You can work hard without attaching your entire identity to success. You can care for others without losing yourself. You can experience joy without fearing its eventual ending. This balance is where peace begins. Many people misunderstand peace. They think peace means a life without problems. But such a life does not exist. Peace is not the absence of storms. Peace is the ability to remain calm while the storm passes through, and this ability can be cultivated. The first step is learning to recognize your emotions instead of immediately becoming consumed by them. When anger arises, notice it. When sadness appears, acknowledge it. When fear enters your mind, observe it carefully. Most people react automatically to every emotion. The moment anger appears, they explode. The moment sadness arrives, they drown inside it. But emotions are like waves. If we stop fighting them and simply observe them, eventually they pass. A person with wisdom does not deny emotion. They simply refuse to become controlled by it. The second practice is learning to pause before reacting. So much suffering in human relationships comes from impulsive words spoken during moments of emotion. A few seconds of anger can create years of regret. One careless sentence can damage a relationship forever. That is why sometimes a single deep breath is powerful enough to change the direction of an entire situation. Before responding in anger, pause. Before defending your ego, pause. Before saying words you cannot take back, pause. Silence is often wiser than reaction. The third practice is remembering a simple truth. This too shall pass. When success comes, remember it is temporary. When failure comes, remember it is temporary. When pain appears, remember it is temporary. When happiness arrives, appreciate it fully without trying to imprison it forever. Everything changes. The seasons change. The body changes. Relationships change. Even the person you are today will not remain the same years from now. Accepting impermanence does not make life meaningless. In fact, it makes life precious. A flower becomes beautiful precisely because it does not bloom forever. A sunset becomes moving because it disappears. Human life gains meaning because time is limited. If everything lasted forever, we would stop appreciating anything. There is a story about an elderly man who once shared his realization while sitting quietly in a hospital room. He said, "When I was young, I spent my entire life chasing money. I thought wealth would give me security and happiness. I worked endlessly, sacrificed time with family, and constantly worried about earning more. But now, lying here in this hospital bed, I realize none of those things can buy me one peaceful night of sleep or one extra breath." He looked out the window silently before continuing. "At this stage of life, having someone hold my hand means more to me than all the money I spent decades chasing." Those words contain a painful truth many people only understand too late. When we stand close to loss, we suddenly see clearly what truly matters, not status, not arguments, not public approval, not endless competition. What matters are the moments of genuine connection, the kindness we shared, the peace we cultivated within ourselves, the love we gave while we still had time. At the end of life, nobody asks how many arguments they won. Nobody cares how often they proved themselves right. Nobody treasures the stress they carried for meaningless competition. Most people simply wish they had lived more honestly, loved more deeply, and worried less. One of the greatest tragedies of human life is that many people postpone peace until someday. They say, "I'll rest after I become successful. I'll be happy once I earn more money. I'll enjoy life after achieving this goal." But life keeps moving. The finish line constantly changes. And before they realize it, years have disappeared. Peace cannot remain permanently postponed into the future. It must be practiced now, not after everything becomes perfect, not after everyone approves of you, not after every problem disappears. Now, sometimes, peace begins with very small actions, choosing not to continue an unnecessary argument, forgiving someone who hurt you, putting down resentment you've carried for years, allowing yourself to rest without guilt, saying kind words while there is still time. Small acts of release slowly transform the heart. The Buddha once taught that holding on to anger is like grasping a burning coal with the intention of throwing it at someone else. Before it harms them, it burns you first, and this is exactly what resentment does. Many people believe anger gives them strength, but in reality, prolonged anger drains energy, clouds judgment, and quietly poisons the mind. The person we hate may continue living peacefully while we remain trapped inside bitterness. Forgiveness does not excuse harmful actions. It simply frees us from carrying poison inside ourselves. In the same way, attachment also creates suffering. The tighter we cling to people, outcomes, or expectations, the more fragile we become. Because eventually, life changes. And when it does, anything we desperately depended on can become the source of immense pain. But when we learn to appreciate life without trying to possess it completely, we discover a quieter form of happiness, a happiness that is not dependent on perfection, a peace that remains even during uncertainty. As life moves forward, all of us will eventually lose certain things. Youth fades, the body weakens, loved ones grow older, situations change. No one escapes this reality. But there is something beautiful, hidden inside that truth. Because everything is temporary, every moment becomes sacred. The conversation you have with your parents today matters. The laughter shared with friends matters. The opportunity to love someone while they are still here matters. Life is not asking us to control everything. Life is asking us to experience it fully while we can. In the end, when our final moment arrives, we leave behind our possessions, achievements, titles, and victories. None of those things follow us. What remains is something far simpler. How gently we treated others. How sincerely we lived. How much peace we cultivated within ourselves. That is the true measure of a life well lived. So perhaps the real wisdom is not learning how to gain more from the world, but learning what we can finally release. Release the need to always be right. Release the fear of judgment. Release the endless comparisons. Release the anger that keeps reopening old wounds. And as these burdens slowly fall away, something unexpected happens. The heart becomes lighter. The mind becomes quieter. And for the first time in a very long while, we begin to feel free.